Welcome back here with Coach Goldpill. This is my 8-week program. And before we get into the meat and potatoes of this particular video topic, there was an outrageous story. It really just chilled my bones. Apparently ICE facilities were forcibly sterilizing big booty Latinas. And that just made me so angry. Luckily, of course, our future God and Vice President Kamala Harris stepped in and blew the whistle. So today we're going to be discussing the question of people who claim that you are not perfect. They deny you that satisfaction. And obviously we all have areas to improve, but these folks are doing it as a form of social control most of the time. It's a reflection of insecurity. And we'll get into that just a bit, but let's start with this question on Quora. Why do people give 4 instead of 5-star ratings when they have no complaints? The first reply is from Mr. Tom Pericucchio. 5 out of 5 stars means best in class. By comparison, 4 out of 5 stars means no complaints. But seriously, every Hampton Inn looks the same. What made this one different? If I give it 5 out of 5 stars, it did something that was beyond my expectation. It had an exceptional breakfast bar. The staff was super nice. There was a hooker in my room. There were drugs as well. It stood out from the rest. I remember it above and beyond the others in its class. Oh my God. And then we come down here, you've got Rolf Tzialsama, and he goes, no complaints doesn't mean perfection. When I hear stuff like that, folks, this is my response, plain and simple. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So it reminds me of a conversation I had recently with this guy. He started popping off and he was discussing making reviews for restaurants. And he says, well, I don't think that Wendy's is worth 5 stars in a review because it's not really 5-star quality food. And stuff like that just grinds my gears to the extreme. And it's because I used to work in a family-run restaurant. Many of you guys, if you worked in the restaurant industry, you know that you put in a lot of time and effort, regardless of what tier you're in, which can be kind of objective, honestly. And you're going to it's a thankless job much of the time. But you have these people who think that, well, you're in a different class. And you're saying, why can't you just evaluate stuff on the merits as opposed to making these really baseless comparisons? It reminds me when I was working in that spot, this dude came in and he eventually wrote a review on, I don't know if it was kelp or plankton or sea anemone. And it starts out, it was just this pompous and ridiculousness. It goes, the atmosphere was lovely. The music, the painting, the artwork, the decoration made me feel at home. The staff was lively and attentive to every one of my needs. The superb knowledge of the owner on European history and coffee was a welcome change from the barren wasteland that is the United States. The espresso, rich, creamy, and satisfying, much like my male lover, left a stain of marking and ownership upon my soul. The pastry, buttery as it was, melted upon my tongue. And you're like, oh wow, that's pretty flattering. 3 out of 5 stars. You see, that's the type of person that thinks everything has to be compared to like some higher level. That really, again, they're in totally different leagues. You can't appreciate something on its own base, or on its own terms. I think it's kind of a shame. For me, if I go into a Wendy's, and I know I'm overusing that, but it's one of the few fast food spots I'll utilize, infrequently I should say, just because they're slightly more healthy, I believe. Now, I still skip out on the soda, but if the fries are good, if the spicy chicken is crispy and juicy, and they obeyed my request, they didn't lather it with disgusting mayonnaise, and the staff's nice, they work quickly, to me that's 5 out of 5. I don't care the fact that it's not a French restaurant. Frankly, most of the stuff you see on a French restaurant menu is not edible if you're a sane human being. I prefer the Wendy's, frankly. I know some people are going to get offended by that. They'll be like,
that is so ridiculous. We are 5-star with a TV chef. We French used to rule the world. Now we are all African. Fuck you.
You go ahead and do what you want to do. I just think there's no foundation for that type of argument. If I go into that Wendy's, everything's going well, this is going to be my response, just to be perfectly honest with you. Or alternatively, I'm not going to sit there and try to make some morality play out of the fact that, it wasn't the same as the top ranked place, because it's a Wendy's, right? But these people, and I think it's the difference. I kind of veer into the question of like writing books. I read a lot, and so I'll go on like a Goodreads, and unless the book was overly long, like they were stretching it just to look formidable on the shelf, or it had some subversive, disgusting message, if I gain knowledge out of it, the content, it's getting 5 out of 5. But these people who are all wrapped up in their reviews will give it like a 3 or a 4 because they want to deny that perfection. That's the difference between a creative type, whether you are, making something in a restaurant or you're writing something, composing a song, and the consumers. We have on this planet mostly consumers, and you can have an idea of what they're consuming. But at any rate, they have this sort of ego and insecurity complex where they don't want to flat out admit, okay, you did a great job. Let's take another example real quick here. Let's say you bought a Aaron Clarey book and you got a lot of value out of it. But then you said, well, but compared to Tony Robbins has a better set of teeth than Aaron Clarey. And his book I thought was more professional. So you're comparing a guy who's pretty much a one-man show with a dude who has a massive company, paid ghostwriters, proofreaders, editors, and you're doing that for a reason. They don't want to, whilst Tony Robbins is not really a threat to them because he's a massive celebrity, and Aaron Clarey is more of an average dude. So comparatively, they can look bad next to Aaron Clarey. So they're more inclined to say Aaron Clarey is imperfect because they don't want to seem inadequate beside him. I think that's silly. You should encourage a person, and you should maybe emulate what they're doing. A lot of people just can't do that because they're threatened by the successes of others. You guys might remember Pursuit of Happiness, where Will Smith tells, I think it's his daughter. He tells his daughter says she wants to be an NBA player. He says, you're not going to do that. And he realizes, wait, I'm making a mistake. I'm tearing someone down because I don't want them to threaten my own image, my own successes. You see that in the workplaces. How many times you could be the best performer, you get an average or below average evaluation. You might have the same evaluation as someone who doesn't do any work. That's because they don't want you outshining the boss, threatening his position, or moving on if you're very productive. So it's all about manipulation ultimately. People don't want to come down and say, okay, you've done well and I'm going to recognize that. And it doesn't threaten me as a person. I'm just acknowledging your success. So, it's a sad commentary on human nature. But you have to realize if you reach for the heavens, a lot of people are going to try to shoot you down simply because they're not motivated or willing or intelligent enough to do the same thing, and they don't want to see you surpass them.